Hi, it's Rebecca Whitman, your host of the Balanced, Beautiful, and Abundant Show. I'm a top-rated life coach, an international best-selling author, and a multi-passionate entrepreneur. I'm on a mission to help you go from burned out to balanced, beautiful, and abundant. The experts on this show will help you achieve work-life balance so that you can experience abundance in 7 pillars of life: spirituality, health, emotions, romance, mindset, social, and financial life. When you have all 7 pillars of life in alignment, you are balanced, beautiful, and abundant. Let's go. Welcome, Alex Terranova, to the Balanced, Beautiful, and Abundant Show. It's so great to see you today.
Thanks for having me.
I know I was interviewed on your show, it feels like maybe 6-8 months ago. So this interview has been a long time coming.
I needed to prep. I knew that you would really grill me. So I needed to study and really get ready. So I would make you feel proud.
Wow. Well, that's setting a high bar. I hope all your study and prep pays off, because I am going to grill you today, Alex.
Nice. I'm ready. I'm ready for the hot seat.
Awesome. Well, let me tell my audience a little bit about your fabulous background. So Alex Terranova is a performance and success alchemist, an author, and an international speaker. He is dubbed the anti-excuses coach by Yahoo Finance. He is the co-creator of Your Love Adventure, an innovative, fun, adventurous take on dating. He is the author of Fictional Authenticity and Redefining Masculinity. He has hosted and appeared on over 400 podcasts, and he's been featured on major news outlets like NBC, Fox, Thrive Global, and Yahoo Finance, to name a few. So let's get into your story. You know, it's funny because you're the old paradigm. I love that you're called a recovering asshole. Like, that asshole type is what tortured me for like the first half of my life. So you're like my fantasy. Like, I would take these assholes to seminars, workshops, give them books, CDs, take them to 12-step meetings, couples therapy, and pray that they would have a spiritual awakening and turn from asshole to nice guy. But you know what? It never happened. And I almost killed myself trying. And when I'm finally like, okay, you know, I tell my clients, don't go for assholes. They're never going to change. They're just, a zebra doesn't change their stripes. Now you're just rocking my whole paradigm, because you are the asshole that became a nice guy. So Let's hear a little bit about your origin story and how did this transformation happen?
Well, I love it. I don't know if you have to watch F-Boy Island if you haven't seen it on HBO. It's an HBO dating show where it's the same concept. These women get to find out, are these guys assholes or nice guys? And some of them still pick the assholes. But what I always say when I'm watching that, which I just think it's a hilarious concept, is everyone can change. It's just about if they want to change, right? No, we can't change anyone else. And I think like what you were saying, right? You were trying to change, which of course you were, right? I used to pick women that were like very undealt with trauma, were very accomplished and successful, but had a lot of stuff under the surface that they'd never dealt with. And I got to be like the white knight, right? And hope that I could fix them, right? It was the opposite version. I would fix them and heal them. And that never worked, right? That's only possible if they want to be healed. You can only heal yourself. You can only transform yourself. And as my fiance now says, she's like, but you're not an asshole anymore. What's the recovering? And I'm like, yeah, but I think like our shadow side, it's kind of always there, right? I can't undo 30 years of programming completely. So I have to be aware that like, hey, my brain sometimes picks those like neural pathways that are like the shadow neural pathways and wants to behave and do things that are like the asshole ways. And I have to get aware and check those things and come back and be like, wait, that's not who I am. That's not who I want to be. But it's about me, right? It's not about like my partner or anything else. So you asked me how we got here. I think how we got here is pretty simple. Like finally hit a point where I was actually realized I was unhappy and unsatisfied. Like I couldn't drink enough to make myself feel good or have the pain go away. I couldn't sleep with or date successful or pretty enough women to as soon as they left, I felt bad again. I couldn't outspend or buy myself happiness. I couldn't achieve it through career achievements. And at 32, I was still in that game where like, prettier, more successful woman, more money, better car, right? All these things. And at the time I had moved from LA to New York City. I got asked by my cousin what I was grateful for. And I actually couldn't answer the question. Now I can answer the question so easily. But at the time, right, because I was all in the next, more. I wasn't grateful for anything. And I realized in that moment, which I feel really incredibly fortunate, right? A lot of us have to get cancer or lose someone or have something terrible happen to kind of like open our eyes. I had that moment in just being asked what I was grateful for, where I realized, oh my God, I am so lucky. I have so much and I'm not even appreciating it. And this is probably why I'm unhappy. And so I decided in that moment I was going to change. And luckily I didn't have like things that were out of my control, right? Like I wasn't an alcoholic. I was able to just be like, okay, I'm not going to drink like I used to. I'm going to drink intentionally, not to heal my, or to deal with my feelings, right? I'm going to date intentionally instead of like using women to feel good. I'm going to work on things that I like, not work on things to make me feel good. Right? Or the results make me feel good. And so that process started about 9 years ago. And it's been a journey, and luckily it's been successful so far. I'm still on the same path. I keep growing and improving. And now I've been fortunate enough to I get to help other people do this, because I know I'm not the only one that, as you described. Maybe you can introduce me to many of your exes.
They don't want to change yet.
Yeah. That's the thing, right? You gotta want to change, or the right. It's got to be a carrot that they want enough, or the pain. For me, it was like the pain, right? I saw the pain for the first time and was like, I can't continue to live with this.
Yeah, one of my favorite spiritual teachers, Michael Beckwith, says, in order to change, you either have to be pushed by pain or pulled by a vision. And a lot of people like yourself are pushed by pain to make a change. It's called hitting bottom. You had to hit a bottom of your old way of being, of going for the BBD, the bigger, better deal. And, LA and New York, I think it's really in the culture. It's just so fast moving and flashy. And there's so much of that just kind of in the culture of you need to have, the perfect mate, the perfect car, the perfect clothes, the perfect job to feel good about yourself. And to extricate yourself from that, took a lot of courage. So that's great.
Yeah, and I think it's important that it never ends, right? I know you and I have talked about like your journey in recovery. It doesn't actually end. We don't actually get there. I think we get to a place where we feel like we've overcome, right? We're not in the like valley of it anymore. We can be on the mountain peak, but if we're not paying attention, it's easy to slip.
Yeah.
And the world we live in doesn't make it less. The world we live in makes it challenging. It provides all the opportunities for all of us to fall for like our vices. And we all have vices, right? They might not all be addictions, but we all have vices. And I mean, I think it requires regular, I noticed recently I've been feeling like a little like not more in the next. I need the next goal. And so I recently have been like, I need to get back to grounded, like nature practices, meditation practices, the things that maybe I did for a long time that I got away from. And I need to come back to those things to, again, continue to support the direction I want to go in. That we never get there.
Exactly. And it's like, go back to basics. When I find myself like in that old egoic type thinking, okay, how do I get centered? I have a morning practice, journaling, meditating, all that stuff just to get centered again. So I got to ask, that's the name of the title of the show. I work with a lot of women. The theme of the show is taking women from burned out and overwhelmed to balanced, beautiful, and abundant. Part of being balanced, beautiful, and abundant is having a loving relationship. And a lot of my listeners and my clients do not understand men. They can't figure out what men want. So I know you just led your first retreat. You coach men, you coach executives, major league ball players, all types of men who are already successful, men who are on their way, men who, are getting out of marriages, who want marriages, who don't want marriages. So if you can enlighten my female audience a little bit, Alex, what do women want, or what do men want in this modern era, 2022, 2023 going into?
I can't speak for what all men want. The thing that what I would say, right, I think that what I would start with is the thing that you shared in the beginning, right? You were trying to change men. And I think that if I am giving advice to women, is get really clear on the deal breakers, the things that you want. I was working with a client recently who's a woman, and she was expressing how she was upset that this man that she's seeing has no money, and she has money. And I was like, you've been dating him for 6 months. You knew he didn't have money. If this was a deal breaker, you either need to end the relationship today. Like, what are you wasting his time and your time? Or it's not a deal breaker, and you're just now creating roadblocks in your mind because you're at a point where it's really time to open up your heart and go to the next level. And now you're afraid. And she realized, it's not actually a deal breaker. Like, I'm okay with him not having, right? He's not homeless, right? He just doesn't have the level of wealth that she wishes he had. But she realizes, like, he's a really good guy. And that's what's important to her. And I think so often, men and women, we have this vision of what we want. I used to have a list on my desk of the deal breakers of like what I was looking for in my ideal partner. And I'm doing this intentionally as a coach with coaches. And I would go out and I would meet women that did not fit that list. But they were fun, they were hot, they were exciting, right? They pulled at like the kind of passion tug of war thing. And I would just ignore the list. And then I'd find myself in the same situation. So my first thing would be, hey, like, what are your values? What really matters to you that if it doesn't exist, you're not even willing to have a conversation with it?
Mm-hmm.
And then you got to practice sticking to those things. And I think that women can give men like a little grace and a little, which I think they do. I'm not saying they don't. Patience, because men traditionally in our society are conditioned to shove our feelings down, to not talk about, to shut off. And we have to really create a safe space so that men can open up and share, and we can't make them. I write a lot of articles and things, and I have more women that interact with the things I post then, and they're like, oh my God, I wish men knew this. I wish men would listen to you. And the thing is those are red flags, right? if you're not able to like have those conversations with men, those aren't the men. There are conscious, caring, vulnerable. I just took 10 men on a retreat. All of them, some of them had never cried to their wives. Some of them never shared their feelings. Some of them have been like so blocked up. All of them broke down in tears. All of them were like, I want to be better partners. All of them wanted to bring more play to their marriages. All of them were like, man, I could be a better dad. I realized like they all wanted this, right? We didn't make them. And it left me going, man, these are good guys. These are guys that want to be better. And we just have to, as a woman, or, you have to be willing to take the time to not, take the bait and like, and actually be patient and stick to your values and your commitments and find those communities of men. And
that's a great point. You have to find them and not get distracted by the shiny objects, the bad boys, the guys who promise the sun, the moon, and the stars, but yet, they have 10 roommates and all the type of stuff that I had to go through and really find guys. There are nice guys out there. I used to not even believe that there were guys out there like yourself and like the people on your retreat and like my husband, Ben. I didn't even think there were any nice guys. And then I heard other women talking about, oh, my husband did this and my husband did that. And he's so kind. And I'm like, what? That's like a thing? Like there really are really kind, nice guys out there. And I had to believe it and then find them. Yeah. So where can women find conscious communities? Where can they find guys who have values and that are wanting to have like deep, meaningful connection with women?
So I think it does start with again, the values, what's important to you, the kind of life you want to live. But then I think you can start looking into, if you spend your time like on apps, let's say that's a big thing, right? Mm-hmm. One of the things I've noticed in working with men and women is they create profiles that they think the opposite person wants to see. You need to create a profile that is actually honest and true and not the mask and the attractive persona, because then you're going to attract that the person that wants the mask and the attractive persona. You know, you almost want to let your freak flag fly in a way, right? It doesn't have to be like that, but you really want to be, you don't want to put the highlight reel of photos. Mm-hmm. If that's not actually what you're going to show up as, right? We've all been there. We've all gone on a date and like the door open and you're like, this isn't who I was talking to. And sometimes it's not a visual thing. Sometimes it's a personality thing. Someone represents themselves a certain way and they're not that. So I think, who are you showing up as first? What are you putting out into the world? You know, I didn't attract my partner until I was ready to meet someone at the level. And same, her and I talk about all the time. If we had met a year before, we would have not been compatible.
How did you meet her?
So, I got sick. I was on the apps, right? I was dating in San Diego in bars in real life. But I ultimately got sick of the games that we were all playing. And I was just over all of it. And I was having success, whatever that means, but I wasn't finding what I was really looking for. And so I posted online that I was giving away a trip for two to Tulum for a friend's wedding. That I was looking for a woman to come to Tulum with me for a friend's wedding, which I had the tickets for because of COVID. The wedding had been postponed. I was in a relationship that ended, didn't work out. And the catch was I wasn't going to pick the winner, the woman that would go with me. 5 of my friends would. So 5 of my,
that could be a movie. That's a script.
It is a script, and I've written it, and I'm working on it now. It's also a coaching program that my fiance, she's my fiance now, so the winning woman went to Tulum with me. We fell in love. She's now my fiance. We're getting married this coming March in Tulum.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And I wrote the script. We also have a coaching program that mostly it's hers, but I work with it on her. She works with women on like relationship coaching and self-worth, but we have a program called Your Love Adventure. And it's really about bringing adventure into dating, because most of us are dating for the result. I got to find my man. I got to find my woman. I want to have kids. I want blah, blah. It's always like, and that's not attractive. That's like graspy energy. Instead of, hey, this is this desire I have, but I want to be adventurous, or I want to be fun, or I want to be playful. And that's what I can control. So really, I created an adventure. And that's what was attractive about it, is women were attracted to, oh my God, he's created this adventure. He's giving away this trip, but anyone can give away a trip, not a big deal. But the fact that I like took it out of my hands, right? I surrendered it to my friends who were, again, conscious. I don't think everyone's going to go create a contest, like a bachelor style contest. But I do think we could listen to our friends more. We could involve community in our dating, right? When we could actually ask our friends, like, what do you see? What do you notice? The ones that we trust, not all of our friends, but the ones that have, are aware and paying attention and conscious. Most of us, our friends will give us warning signs and tell us, and we ignore. We can meet the friends of the people that we're dating. What are they like? If you met a guy and he seems like he's very like emotional and vulnerable, it's really easy to pretend to be emotional and vulnerable. And you meet their friends and they're a bunch of bros, right? And they're just drinking and watching sports. There's probably something, it's probably a red flag.
Yeah.
So, and then I think like, if depending on what you want, right? If you want a conscious guy who's like working on himself, go to sound healings, go to yoga, go to personal development events, conferences, workshops, plant medicine journeys. I used to look for women in like crystal stores and like at yoga and like all these things. Cause like, well, these women are working versus the gym, which
Right.
like everyone goes to the gym. It's just like it could be, but some of these other places, like I don't think everyone's at a sound bath, right? There's a specific type that goes to a sound bath. So where are you meeting people? What are you doing to kind of like find out who they really are? What's their history? Are you paying attention to their history? I think we tell each other the truth and we just decide not to listen, right? We only listen to what we want to hear, which sometimes sabotages it or sometimes has us bring people in that we don't really want brought in.
I call that painting the red flags pink.
Nice. Yeah, totally.
Because we're so results oriented instead of adventure oriented. And we're like, I got to get the guy. I got to get the guy. I got to get the guy. Have that spirit of adventure and take in the information. Like you said, you learn everything you need to know about someone and if you can't see it, your friends do. If all your friends are saying the same thing, it's probably something that you're missing about the person. So speaking of letting your freak flag fly, I know that authenticity is really a value that you are promoting with your client and in your community. Tell me, what does authenticity mean to you? Why is it so important?
So I think we throw around the term authenticity a lot, right? And I think we actually a lot of us know what it means to be authentic. Most of us have grown up, and this was me. I'm not, I really see this in myself. I see it in my clients. We grew up and we've been conditioned. Our religion, our parents, the media, the music, and we've created who we are. And you hear this isn't my opinion. This is the truth in the sense of you hear people say all the time, I'm not like that. I'm like this, right? And we label ourselves and put ourselves in a box, and it makes us feel comfortable to know who we are. And it makes us feel like we can identify with others who match or don't match with that. But I would argue that a lot of that it was kind of imprinted on us by the way we grew up as a reaction to things instead of a clear decision that we made. And so the way I look at authenticity is it starts with integrity, commitment, vulnerability, trust, and faith. To me, those are the 5 like building blocks that make up. And I'll say them again, because integrity is about, do your thoughts, your words, and your actions align? So if I say I'm a man who wants to add value in the world, are the things I'm saying adding value, or the things I'm doing adding value, and are my thoughts adding value? And no one's 100% on here, right? But it's like, hey, how do I steer my ship to stay in integrity in my life? If I'm saying I want to be a good guy and have a family, then I can't be like at a strip club at 3 a.m. and my partner doesn't know who I am, where I am, right? That it doesn't align. It's not to say that's bad. It's if that's who you say you are, then it's not bad. It's actually perfect. But if I say I'm one way and then I'm behaving another way, I'm out of alignment. So I'm actually not being authentic. The second is commitment. Can I be committed to this level of integrity, to being the person that I say I am? And then the next is vulnerability. Like if you're not willing to actually like open up, then how does anyone know? Right? How do we know who you actually are? How do we know what it is to be you if you're totally shielded and closed off? And then the trust piece is the trusting that you are an evolving being. Who you are today is not who you are tomorrow. Your cells are literally changing in your body. Your ideas can change. I think that's like you see it in our country right now, right? We're so like like committed to being who we are and like this is the truth and this is what it is, that we actually don't create the space to like let ourselves evolve.
It's tribalism, what's happening in our country. We're like, this is who I am and this is my team, and I'm not taking in any critical information. I don't want to hear it. Yeah, that's exactly what's going on. I agree.
And it's all sides, right? It's not like this is not one group is worse than others, but there's like this lack of trust that if I open up my mind, then I'm going to lose like who I am or something. And it's like, no, that's actually how we evolve. Think of it like food. If you just ate the same thing every day, that's fine, but you would actually never get to experience all the magnificent flavors that you could experience. You also could not experience what all the different foods might be able to do to your body and nourish you and whatnot. And then the last piece is faith. Because I think whether you believe in God, whether you don't believe in God, faith in something other than you. So that could be like a God or like the universe or energy. It could also be faith in others, faith in community, faith in your partner, faith in yourself. But there's got to be something outside of just the like, I'm going to just put my nose to the grindstone and figure it all out.
I agree. That's why spirituality is my first pillar of abundance, because having faith in something other than yourself, it makes life so much more peaceful and easy than, oh my God, it's all the pressure of the world is on me and I've got to figure everything out. So if you are talking about authenticity, what does fictional authenticity mean? Is that what you were talking about in the beginning, that people are being like fake authentic, or why is your book entitled Fictional Authenticity?
Yeah, so I think we all have a version of fictional authenticity. We all, to a degree, say things like, I like things like this, or I don't like things like that, or I'm like this, or I'm like that. And a lot of us, how did that become the truth, right? Where did that become like crystallized and solid? When did we make those choices? And I think fictional authenticity is often, most of us grow up, and you see it a lot with like midlife crisis. Like people go through some version of a midlife crisis, or people have this awakening moment where they're like, oh my God, what have I been? Like, who have I been? What have I been living? What have I been doing? Or I'm like unfulfilled. As we realize, man, I've been doing the things I should be doing, the things I was supposed to do, the things my parents wanted me to do, the things my community, my church, whatever. And all those things you thought you were subconsciously, like you thought you were like really doing the right things. You were checking the boxes, but really it was this kind of programmed life. And so I think to different degrees, all of us have like a fictionalized authenticity that we've created. And as we start to work with people like you or me, or you go to programs, or maybe you go to therapy, or maybe you just start reading books that have you kind of start looking at, wait, why do I believe what I believe? Why do I do what I'm doing? Why do I behave the way I'm behaving? It's like peeling the layers off the onion. And I think we have to like deconstruct the fictionalized version to get to the core, to go, whoa, I never thought about a lot of this stuff. I just became it. And then from there, we can actually decide who are we? Who, I was like, thought of myself as kind of like this like charming bad boy, because that's what I like saw would be a successful way to live my life based on media, like growing up in LA, like that was a good survival strategy.
Yeah.
Right. But I never was like, man, what are the consequences of this? And then I got to a certain point, right, and went, wait, is this actually working for me? Is this like charming bad boy like gonna get me the life I want to live? And there was like, wait, it's not. Might have been fun for a time, and it served a purpose, and it's not bad, but it's not. It's like somebody told me to go down the yellow brick road, right, and go find the wizard. And I've just been going that path because that's where I thought the answer was, but really that was never my path or my journey. I had to find my own way.
That's beautiful. I think it's so important to question, whose narrative are you following? Are you following your parents, society, the media, and choose where you want to go and how you want to be and who you want to be. And that reminds me of what Wayne Dyer says, change your story, change your life. Like, whose story are you really living? And you get to recreate your own story through working with a coach or, like you said, a therapist or doing a program. So this is a big question from the other side. I feel like we're the yin and the yang of like coaches. Like, I coach the other side, the women. I teach them how to step more into their feminine energy, because I think a lot of women post-feminism are in their masculine and they're pushing things away and chasing things. Yeah. How do you personally balance your masculine and your feminine energy? Because you were before, you were kind of in your toxic masculine, and then you step more into your feminine, but you don't want to lose your masculine. So how do you balance the two?
Yeah, I love this question. And I love this. It's one of my favorite topics. We're both, right? We're masculine and feminine. You're masculine and you're feminine, and I'm masculine and I'm feminine. And it doesn't have to do with gender, right? It's energy.
Right.
And we live in no one can argue, we live in a patriarchal society for hundreds of years, right? Again, not bad or good, simply is. And it's masculine energy driven. Masculine energy, I like to think of as like an arrow, straight line. It's like logic thinking, it's results, it's getting things done. It's a straight, solid piece of wood. And I would view feminine as like a circle. It's flowing, it's creative. There's a lot more trust. There's more faith. It's nature. Neither one is better than the other, right? Like they're both needed. And what I personally do is, one of the things is my feelings, my emotions are more in the feminine. And so I actually have to practice being with those. So when I feel something, instead of pushing it down, I have to like explore it. I have to let it show up, whether that be anger, tears, joy. I have to actually be with that thing. I don't have to let it run the show and control my life, but I can pause for a moment and be like, whoa, what am I feeling? What is this experience I'm having? What does it want me to know? And then I do things. My spiritual practice, I would argue, is all my feminine. So when I walk into my office in the morning, this is something I've worked with men on at the retreat. We talked about, most people walk into their office and they go right into their masculine, right? Where's their to-do list? What do they have to do? What do they have to accomplish? I walk into my office and the first thing I do is I sit down and I meditate. So it doesn't matter if it's 2 minutes or 20 minutes, but I created space where all I'm doing is like settling the energy, breathing.
That's great.
And I usually like light a candle. There's one burning next to me. And I'll often like burn some incense or some sage or something. So this is the reason I do this, is I don't think it's magic. There's no spells or hocus pocus, but I'm creating I'm almost like hacking my intention, my focus and my intention. So by lighting a candle, burning something, I create an intention with it. And the smells and the things the smells, the light, if I tell myself that those mean something, then they mean something. Whether they do or they don't. If I say this means, if I burn sage and I say it means it's clearing the space, when I smell sage, my brain goes, oh, the space is like cleared.
Yeah.
And so I come into my office and I try to ground and create the vibration, the energy that I want to have, that my clients want to have. And I do that on purpose, intentionally. And then when I start working, my work isn't like this, like, bang, 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 bang. It's like more calm. It's more steady. It's more focused. And it's not to say that there's not masculine involved, right? There's still like things that I want to accomplish and do. But it's being intentional, right? And not just having it while I walk in my office and it just goes the way it always goes. Other things that I do.
Practice. I'm going to start doing that, because I walk into my office and I'm just like doing all my activities and my actions, and I'm not taking that pause to center. That is a practice that I'm going to start using. That's a beautiful gift you share with our audience. Thank you.
Yeah, we worked with men on the retreat about like men view things like crystals and candles and sage and Palo Santo, whatever, as like more feminine. And it was like, guys, these things aren't anything. It's just a piece of wax, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's just a stone, right? I'm not saying you believe whatever you want, but it's a stone. But if I say this stone, right? If I have like a crystal here on my desk, if I say this stone gives me like clarity and calmness and focus, then when I see it, I think clarity, calmness, and focus, right? So we give the world, we ascribe meaning to the world. So instead of living in a world where the meaning is given to us, we can actually like create the meaning that we wanted to have as like reminders. So we talk about masculine here. You can't see, but I have like tattoos all over my body. Most of them are words. They're words about like who I am and who I see myself as and who I want to be, because I want to remember. I want to be consciously reminded of the man that I'm committed to being. And I think all these things are all cultivating that also.
That's a beautiful. So the final question before we wrap up, you have a motto as the no excuses coach. Why are excuses getting in the way of our success? And how can we get rid of excuses? What's your philosophy on being the no excuses coach?
So I think that excuses, circumstances, reasons are that. They're reasons. They're reasonable. Most human beings live a reasonable life. Most of us go, we just had a baby, we can't travel, right? Most of us say things like, oh, I could never take a whole month off work. That's like my boss would never let me do that. How am I supposed to meditate every morning? Like I have 3 kids, right? Or we create all these reasons, which just look at the language, right? Have you live a reasonable life? There's nothing wrong with a reasonable life. If you're living a reasonable life and you're happy, great. Most of us, though, I think are living a reasonable life, and there's so much more that we want.
Yes,
we want to travel. We want to start a business. We want to make more money. We want to have a higher level of the experience of love. We want more adventure. We want more fun. We want more joy. We want more peace. All of those things are going to come at the cost of reasonable. If you think about our brain, right? We think about our brain. Oh, I need it. Like when you ask somebody, if I called 10 people right now and said, hey, let's go to Bali next month for the whole month, most of them are going to get in their logic and reason brain and figure out all the reasons why they can't. Instead of going, man, I would love to go to Bali for a month. What would I have to, how do I create it? Which would be completely unreasonable. And right, me creating the Tulum dating adventure that I created was completely unreasonable. Who am I to say that women should apply to go to Tulum with me on this thing and my friends should choose? It was unreasonable for me 8 years ago to go, I'm going to leave my job cold turkey in the hospitality business and start a completely new business with really no savings or anything. It was, I could ultimately go on and on about all the things we want come on the other side of being unreasonable. So
we're all out of our everything that we want is outside of our comfort zone.
Yeah. And so I am all about how do we live an unreasonable life, which requires us to give up the excuses, the reasons, and not subscribe to like the circumstances that we're in. And ultimately, right, you can be listening to me and be like, well, you don't know, you don't have 5 kids, but there is someone with 5 kids doing the thing that you're saying you can't do, right? There's someone with no legs doing the thing that's saying you can't do. There's someone who is turned their closet into an office so they can do the thing that you say you can't do, which is, right, that's the people that we all admire, that we all look up to, all did the unreasonable thing. And if you want the life that you say you want, it's going to take that.
I know someone who did that. She didn't have any room in her apartment for going live and doing podcasts. So she cleared a little space in her office and she did that. And now she's doing so well as a network marketer. So yes, I Totally agree with that. Live life on the skinny branches. Be unreasonable. This has been such an inspiring interview. Congratulations on your upcoming nuptials in March in Tulum. Sounds so cool that you're going back to where you had your dating contest that she won. And how can people stay in touch with you and find out more about what you do in the world?
So the DreamMason.com, the DreamMason, 2Ms.com. You can find everything from my podcast to my book, to my men's retreat, to working with me one-on-one. I post a lot on LinkedIn and Facebook. Like I write long form articles, things that are for men and women. Most of it applies to men, but I think a lot of women often are like, man, I want my men to read this. So I'm on all those things, and Instagram, Inspirational Alex. And if you are listening to this, we do have another men's retreat coming up it'll be the summer of 2023, the Alchemy of Men 2. So for your women listeners, maybe you can guide your men to the Alchemy of Men 2, and we can send them back to you happier, more fulfilled, more excited about their lives. I think that's ultimately what it is like, we want to make men more happy, more fulfilled, more at peace, because then that's going to ripple out.
Then they'll treat their women better. And for the single women, where is this retreat so they can stalk? Then they're going to have all these enlightening, amazing aha moments and be better men.
Hilarious. Yeah.
Where's the retreat?
we get a second house with single women. That's a reality show, right? That's great. We don't have a date. We don't have a date. We know summer 2023. We don't have a date or a location yet. But usually the last one we held in Idaho, right in the middle of 40 acres on a river. It was pretty, we didn't let women near these men. We needed the men to feel safe. Not that women make them, it's so interesting, right? The women don't make men feel unsafe. Men make themselves feel unsafe because they think they have to show up a certain way in front of women. And it was amazing. Like men, when we got them all together, what came out of them was just so not who they are with their women. So yeah, if you're a single woman and you're looking for a conscious guy, I mean, you can reach out too. And if I know anyone, I'm happy to, send them your way or send you their way.
That would be another movie script. Like there's a retreat house with men doing all this deep transformational work. And then there's another retreat house with women. And they're actually the toxic feminine being superficial, objectifying the men. That is like a total gender reversal, which is always so funny. Anyway, I am so, so grateful you were on the Balanced, Beautiful, and Abundant show. You gave so much value to my listeners, the women, and just the people that listen to the show who are wanting to go from burned out and overwhelmed to balanced, beautiful, and abundant. Thank you, Alex Terranova, for your time. And everybody listening, thank you for listening to the show. We really appreciate your support. If you could take 30 seconds out of your day, leave a 5-star review, subscribe to the show, that would be wonderful. And if you're listening, you can always take a screenshot of this podcast and share it to Instagram, tag me, tag at the Inspirational Alex. We will reshare it on our podcast and in our stories. And thank you. I mean, reshare it in our stories. Thanks again, everyone, for listening. And until we meet again, keep your vibe high and your hands clean. We'll see you next time for another amazing show. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for listening to the Balanced, Beautiful, and Abundant show. Please rate, subscribe, and review this podcast. If you or someone you know feels stuck and needs more abundance and balance in their life, please go to my link tree in the show notes to schedule your complimentary breakthrough call. I look forward to hearing from you, and we'll see you on the next podcast episode.